Sir, I need you to keep those hands where I can see them. You match the description from a robbery 3 blocks over.
Young man, I've been sitting at this stop 15 minutes. I ain't robbed nobody since I quit the plant.
Composure like that is what guys use to throw us off. Stand up for me.
I would if I
haven't
could.
stood in 20 years. Factory press took my
No,
spine.
sir.
A black man in a wheelchair sat quietly inside a broken bus shelter on a hot Detroit street, minding his own business and waiting for a ride home. But a white police officer stormed up to him, accused him of being a criminal, mocked his body, and told him straight to his face that, "People like you always have excuses." What the officer did not know was that this moment was being recorded from 3 angles, that he also did not know that the man he was humiliating once wore a uniform too. And he definitely did not know that this same man had the power to end his career with a single phone call. The video would spread across the city by nightfall, and the truth would break something in everyone who watched it. Before this story pulls you all the way in, take 1 second to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss stories like this. And drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Let me know you're here. Now, let me show you what happened at stoplight 14. You think I'm stupid? The officer snapped. Ezekiel Harper looked up slowly from his lap. His hands rested on the thin blanket covering his legs. His wheelchair was old. The metal frame was scratched. One wheel squeaked when he moved. "I told you," Ezekiel said softly. "I can't stand." The officer leaned closer. "That's real convenient. Funny how every suspect I stop suddenly can't walk." People across the street had stopped moving. A woman held her phone up. A man near a liquor store door whispered, "Here we go again." The officer's name tag read Caleb Rourke. He stood tall, chest out, jaw tight, one hand on his belt. "You match the description," Rourke said. "Black male. Older. Jacket. Hat." Ezekiel touched the brim of his faded army cap. "There are a lot of us like that," he replied. Rourke smirked. "Don't get smart with me." Ezekiel Zeke Harper was 79 years old. His back was broken in 3 places from a factory fall 22 years ago. That he had never sued, that he had never begged, that he had just learned how to live in a body that no longer listened. His voice stayed calm because he had learned long ago that anger only made men like this feel stronger. He wore a brown coat with frayed cuffs. His shoes were clean but old. His eyes were tired but steady. Inside that tired body lived a man who had walked through jungles under gunfire. A man who had carried bleeding friends on his shoulders. A man who had saluted a flag with blood still on his hands. But today to Officer Rourke he was just another problem. "So what were you doing before you sat here?" Rourke asked. "Waiting," Ezekiel said. "For who?" "My ride." Rourke laughed. "You expect me to believe someone's coming to pick you up in this part of town?" Ezekiel did not answer. Rourke's eyes dropped to the wheelchair. "You hiding something under that blanket?" "No, sir." "Then move it." "I can't bend like that." Rourke stepped forward and yanked the blanket aside himself. Nothing was there. Just thin legs that barely moved. A few people gasped. Rourke paused for half a second. Then he covered it with anger. "So you want me to feel sorry for you now?" "I didn't ask for that," Ezekiel said. Rourke bent closer. "You people always try to play weak when you get caught." The words landed heavy. A young girl near the bus stop whispered, "That's messed up." Rourke heard it. "You got something to say?" he barked at her. She looked down. Phone stayed up. Ezekiel looked at the officer. "You don't have to talk to me like that." Rourke laughed again. "I don't have to talk to you any kind of way. You're lucky I'm even being polite." Ezekiel's jaw tightened. He stayed silent. For a brief second, Ezekiel was not at the bus stop anymore. He was 19 years old again, standing in mud, holding a rifle that felt too heavy for his thin arms, watching smoke rise over trees. He remembered a white officer yelling at him back then too. But that officer had called him son, instead of suspect. He blinked and came back to the shelter. Rourke turned to his radio. "Yeah, I got an uncooperative male. Possible match. Doesn't want to comply." Ezekiel lifted his eyes. "I have complied with everything." Rourke stepped closer. "You still breathing like you got something to hide?" Ezekiel whispered, "I'm just tired." "Then maybe you shouldn't be out here," Rourke said. A man across the street finally spoke. "He ain't doing nothing, officer." Rourke spun around. "You want to join him?" The man went quiet. Rourke turned back. "ID." Ezekiel reached slowly into his coat pocket and handed over a worn wallet. Rourke flipped it open. His eyes narrowed. "Military?" "Yes." Rourke scoffed. "Everybody says that." He dropped the wallet back into Ezekiel's lap. "You know how many fake vets I meet?" Ezekiel swallowed. "Then you haven't met enough real ones." That line made Rourke angry. Rourke crouched down so they were eye level. You know what I see? Ezekiel looked at him. I see a man who learned how to look sad so people feel sorry for him. Ezekiel's voice stayed calm. You don't see me at all. Rourke leaned in. And you don't get to tell me what I see. The crowd was silent. Only traffic moved. Only cameras blinked. A black SUV slowed near the corner. It did not stop yet. Ezekiel noticed it. Rourke did not. Rourke stood up. You're coming with me. For what? Ezekiel asked. For further questioning. I can't stand. Then I'll help you. Rourke grabbed the wheelchair handles. Ezekiel's hand shot up. Don't touch me. The word was not loud. But it was strong. Rourke froze. Something in Ezekiel's eyes was different now. Not fear. Not anger. Authority. Rourke sneered. You think you can order me now? Ezekiel looked him straight in the eyes. I have buried men who talked like you. Rourke blinked. What did you just say? Ezekiel slowly reached into his jacket again. Rourke tensed. Hands where I can see them. Ezekiel pulled out a small metal case. He opened it. Inside were 3 military medals. Real ones. Not shiny toys. Real worn heavy medals. The crowd leaned closer. Rourke hesitated. Ezekiel spoke softly. I earned those when I was younger than you. Rourke forced a laugh. Anybody can buy medals. Ezekiel nodded. You're right. He closed the case. Then he said the sentence that changed everything. I didn't buy the men who died next to me. The black SUV stopped. A tall woman in a gray suit stepped out. She walked fast. Her eyes were locked on Ezekiel. Then on Rourke. She spoke with a calm, deadly voice. Officer Rourke. Rourke turned. Yes. That man you're holding is Ezekiel Harper. Rourke shrugged.
So? She stepped closer. So he is the former Sergeant Ezekiel Harper. Medal of Honor recipient. Federal Civil Rights Commission board member, and the man who helped write the policy you're standing on. The air broke. Phone shook. Rourke's face drained of color. Ezekiel did not smile. He just closed his eyes for a moment. Ezekiel opened his eyes and looked at Rourke. I waited my whole life to stop being afraid of men like you, he said quietly, and you just helped me remember why I never should have been. The crowd did not move. The city did not breathe. And Officer Rourke finally realized. He had been standing in front of the wrong man. Nobody spoke. Not Officer Caleb Rourke. Not the woman in the gray suit. Not the crowd. Only traffic noise and wind filled the street. Rourke's mouth opened, then closed again. His hands slowly left the wheelchair handles. I didn't know, he said. Ezekiel Harper looked up at him. You didn't try to know. The woman stepped forward. My name is Lenora Vance, she said. Deputy Director of the Federal Civil Rights Commission. I'm also Sergeant Harper's legal guardian for medical travel. Rourke swallowed. You're with him? Lenora nodded. I'm here because he was testifying at City Hall this morning about police bias against disabled black veterans. The crowd began to murmur. Rourke's shoulders dropped. He looked around and realized something new. Every single phone was still up. Recording. Watching. Waiting. Rourke cleared his throat. Sir, I apologize if I made you uncomfortable. Ezekiel did not respond. Lenora tilted her head. You didn't make him uncomfortable. You publicly humiliated him. Rourke tried again. I was just doing my job. Lenora's voice stayed calm. No. You were doing your assumptions. She turned to the crowd. Did anyone here hear Sergeant Harper threaten anyone? No one spoke. Did anyone see him resist? Silence. Did anyone see him match a real description? A woman finally said, he was just sitting. Lenora looked back at Rourke. You treated him like a lie before you treated him like a person. Rourke's face burned. I didn't know who he was. Ezekiel finally spoke. That is the problem. A young man stepped forward. My uncle lost his legs in Iraq, he said. He gets treated like trash too. An older woman wiped her eyes. My father was a veteran. He would have cried seeing this. A teen whispered, that officer messed up bad. Rourke felt smaller with every voice. His power was gone. Not because Ezekiel raised his voice, but because Ezekiel never had to. Lenora knelt beside Ezekiel. Would you like me to speak for you? She asked. Ezekiel shook his head. No. Let me. He looked at Rourke. I don't hate you, Ezekiel said. I hate what taught you to look at me like a problem. Rourke whispered, I never meant. Ezekiel raised one finger. Listen. Rourke froze. I wore a uniform so this country could say it was fair, Ezekiel said. I came home and learned it only meant I could die for it, not belong to it. His voice stayed gentle. When I stopped walking, I learned something else, he continued. People only respect you when you look strong. And they only believe you when you look like them. Rourke's eyes filled. I was wrong, he said. Ezekiel nodded. Yes. Lenora stood. Officer Rourke, Internal Affairs is already watching this footage. She pointed to the phones. This will be reviewed. Publicly. Rourke whispered, I'll lose my job. Lenora replied, You didn't lose it. You handed it away. Rourke looked at Ezekiel. I'm sorry. Ezekiel replied softly, I forgive you. But forgiveness doesn't erase harm. That line hit harder than any shout. An ambulance arrived for Ezekiel, called by Lenora earlier. As they helped him into a better chair, people moved aside respectfully. No one looked at him as small anymore. They looked at him as solid. As real. As important. Rourke stood alone. No badge looked heavy enough now. A young boy approached Ezekiel. Sir, are you really a hero? Ezekiel smiled. I was. Now I'm just trying to be useful. Inside the ambulance, Lenora held Ezekiel's hand. You okay? Ezekiel nodded. I am now. You didn't have to go through that. I know, he said. But somebody else needed to see it. Lenora smiled softly. You still teaching? Ezekiel looked out the window. I never stopped. Outside, Rourke watched the ambulance pull away. He removed his hat. Not for respect. For shame. The crowd slowly scattered. But the video stayed. Ezekiel's last words before the door closed were barely audible. They taught me to stand without legs, and forgive without forgetting. If this story moved you, disturbed you, or made you think, subscribe to this channel so more voices like Ezekiel's never get buried. And tell me in the comments, do you think Officer Rourke deserved forgiveness, or only consequences?